Regular listeners will know that I tend to listen to the AP News in the morning, the top and the bottom of the hours, just to get a sense of what normies are hearing about political events, because largely that's where people are going to hear about the State of the Union address. That type of presentation, those are the broad stroke narratives. And it was pretty striking because the AP was sort of playing it very subtly. But they played two clips. They basically said Joe Biden called for America to unite and for the parties to work together. And that was, they played something like this clip.
And in fact, I signed over 300 bipartisan pieces of legislation since becoming president, from reauthorizing the Violence Against Women Act, to the Electoral Count Reform Act, the Respect for Marriage Act that protects the right to marry the person you love. And to my Republican friends, if we could work together the last Congress, there's no reason we can't work together and find consensus on important things in this Congress as well. I think folks, you all are as informed as I am, but I think the people sent us a clear message. Fighting for the sake of fighting, power for the sake of power, conflict for the sake of conflict gets us nowhere. That's always been my vision of our country, and I know it's many of yours. To restore the soul of this nation, to rebuild the backbone of America, America's middle class, and to unite the country.
And then the AP said, but the Republican response was given by Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And this is what she had to say.
And I don't have a lot in common. I'm for freedom. He's for government control. At 40, I'm the youngest governor in the country. And at 80, he's the oldest president in American history. I'm the first woman to lead my state. And he's the first man to surrender his presidency to a woke mob that can't even tell you what a woman is. In the radical left's America, Washington taxes you and lights your hard-earned money on fire. But you get crushed with high gas prices.
Okay, that's I mean, they didn't even play that the Washington lights your money on fire. They just played that part there. And there was really no comment, but pretty hard to come away with that thinking that they aren't sort of like there's not a subtle critique there. And here's the thing. If there are any other people, I mean, like, I sort of feel like the 2020 midterms, I should say the 2022 midterms resolved the how worried are we about the woke mob taking over everything in terms of like a country. I understand that in the conservative mindset, in the reactionary mind, this is going to play over and over and over and over again. And every time it circles back around, it's going to be just as intense and terrifying until they move on to the next thing, right? Sharia law,
Jade Helm.
Jade Helm. I mean, like it just the caravan, and they just keep cycling through these things, and it's going to keep going. But in terms of like what the State of the Union address is, it's really just two competing, essentially one person plays, and in the broad strokes, it was pretty devastating, not just because the odd thing is that I think Sarah Huckabee Sanders is the least damaged Republican in the like in all of the responses to the State of the Union. Like it destroyed the careers of most of the Republicans who did it. Jindal, I think Scott Brown. I mean, like it goes on and on. But I actually think that she, handled herself well. She wasn't, Marco Rubing it with the water. That, that's where the whole water bottle thing came from. With Marco Rubio was so thirsty. But in terms of like hurting the relative or helping the relative parties, I there's just no there's just no fish in that pond when you're going out talking about the woke mob. And then the other problem is that you could hear it right there in those two sentences. He's the oldest president that we've ever had, right? Which is true. And that's a narrative. He's so old that he's ineffectual. He can't get anything done. But then in the next breath, she's talking about how the woke mob has taken over and is doing all this stuff with him as, I guess, presumably as some type of puppet, and it really is just too complicated of a narrative. Like, who am I supposed to vote against now? Do I vote against the woke mob and keep in the nice old grandpa? Or do I vote out the grandpa because he's not doing anything? But won't that just leave the woke mob? What are we supposed to do if I'm someone who even remotely is sympathetic to her message?
Yeah, like is he dangerous or not? I think is the hard question to reconcile. Like, is he the dangerous one, or are the deep state bureaucrats who are unelected the dangerous ones?
Well, and the point is like, on one hand, they're trying to say he's ineffectual. So he's dangerous if you let him drive the car down the road because he's too old to drive and he's going to hit somebody. But they're also saying nobody's letting him drive. Somebody else is driving him. And we just don't like where the car is going, but that doesn't implicate the driver so much. He's more of a victim in the second half of the narrative. And so they have a real problem. They haven't quite figured this out. When we go into the second half, we will play more clips. The Social Security stuff is, I think, amazing, and it really ends up being, and not even necessarily to Biden's credit as much as it is. It's a great thing to have happened for those of us who care about Social Security and Medicare, and there's a real opportunity for Democrats going forward there. We'll see if they take it.